Welcome to another edition of Bulldogs Live on the alumni side. And, well, he's currently back with the Bulldogs as well. We'll get to that later, but it is so great to have 2018 OHL champion Ryan Moore with us. Ryan, thank you so much. I know we were trying to do this before the season shut down and get you on the podcast. It's just great to have a chance to catch up with you. So welcome to the show, and how are you doing?
Thank you, man. Yeah, like you said, we tried to do it earlier, and I'd been in Hamilton a couple of times, and we saw each other and we talked about it. But we're gonna make it work this time, and I've been good. I've been trying to stay busy with school, with work, whatnot. How are you doing?
I can't complain. I want the season to be here as quickly as possible, but the family has been safe and healthy, so I think at this point, as good as we can hope for. I had Nick Camano on a couple of weeks ago, and I joked with him that we were finally going to get you, and all it took was a worldwide pandemic and a cross-border internet connection to finally get you on the show, and he had a good laugh at that one. So it is great to finally have you. And of course, the fans coming in, I see we've got a whole bunch of them joining in. So if you have questions for Ryan Moore, feel free to fire them in, and I'll send them to him. And, right away, we've got one for you. I was going to get to this a little bit later, but this is what I know a lot of people like talking about. Ryan, what was it like getting a stint with the Toronto Marlies? And it was awesome watching you in the series against the Ice Dogs. We're definitely going to get to that one in a little bit. But what was it like when you signed that with the Toronto Marlies to go pro?
It was cool. It was a learning experience, and I definitely think I grew, not only as a player but as a person. And it was tough right away because it's pro hockey's so much different in terms of how you got to handle yourself, and it's completely different business than juniors. You almost miss playing juniors when you're there in many ways, but it was a great experience, and I'm very thankful for my time and the staff there and everyone involved.
Now, let's go all the way back, because the fans in Toronto or in Hamilton would remember you for your time with the Bulldogs and then going on with the Marlies and the Newfoundland Growlers. But before you arrived with the Bulldogs, you actually represented your country at the Hlinka Gretzky tournament. What was it like? I've asked this to a number of guys that have done it on the Canadian side, but very rarely have we had anybody. We got Jan Unique's and Jan Mishak's recollections playing for Czech Republic. But what was it like pulling the red, white, and blue on?
Wow, seems like a long time ago, but it was a cool experience for me. That was really the first time that I got to do it. I didn't have the opportunity to play for the U.S. program at the NCDP, so to be able to put on the USA jersey and represent my country at that, it was a cool experience. And I had 1 year, actually, I'd played 1 year in the OHL, and I knew a lot of the other side. Like when we played Team Canada, I knew who their top guys were. I got to see Strome, Marner, Konechny, these guys, and a lot of my teammates actually on the U.S. team were playing in the USHL, or they're playing, in Minnesota high school. So I was familiar with those guys, and it was cool to battle against them on an international stage.
Well, we fast forward a little bit. You have a great run with Plymouth and Flint, and then the day that will live in Bulldogs history, it gets officially announced that the Hamilton Bulldogs acquire Nick Camano and Ryan Moore. You guys followed Will Bitton over just about 13 months after he had gone from Flint to Hamilton. Now, I talked to Nick Camano about this, and he talked about what a relief it was coming to the Bulldogs with you and having that connection already built in, and then Will Bitton and John Gruden as well. What was it like from your standpoint? Because for you, it wasn't coming home to Hamilton like it was for Nick, although you seemed like you took it right away and played like you were at home.
Thank you. It was a very cool experience. I just remember, I'll never forget that day. We were at practice in Flint, and my phone just kept ringing in my change stall. And I think Mauricio Colella, he said, "Hey, you should probably check your phone. I can hear it's buzzing." And I knew right then. Actually, I didn't really know like Hamilton was really in the mix. That's the crazy thing about trades in the OHL. Like, a lot of people think that you kind of pick where you're going and you know what's going to happen, but I really had no contact with anybody or heard anything from Hamilton. And then that call came, and I remember Cammy got his phone ring at the same time, so I knew it had to be something. But it was great for me. Like, we had been obviously really tight prior to coming to Hamilton, and the opportunity to live with him and his family. I knew his family before, and that ended up being a great experience. Living with them and Gruden and Bits, and it all kind of fell into place. And I have zero regrets about it, and I almost wish it happened sooner.
Yeah, well, and I think a lot of people in Hamilton were kind of thinking the same thing. Boy, we would have loved to have had Ryan Moore and Nick Camano before they got here, because you guys, I mean, it just seemed like the dead perfect fit. Steve Staios has said to me a number of times that he judged making a deal that season off how the team started. The team started so well, and then to go out and load up, bringing you and Nick Camano in, essentially the Bulldogs brought a second first line into the team by picking the two of you up. When you guys arrived in Hamilton, and you specifically, Ryan, when you looked around the room, was it like immediately, okay, we can do something really special with this group?
Yeah, I think it was a no-brainer for me, especially even before I got there. Looking at their roster, I was like, this is going to be something special here. And it was new for me because Cammy and I had, both of us, we'd never played on that side of the OHL. So new teams that we were going to be able to play against. It really just seemed like it was the right fit. But to answer your question, looking around the room, I just remember I was so excited. Like, that first skate, we got to skate by ourselves because the team had already done morning skate, and we just practiced by ourselves. And just to meet all the guys, and they were so cool already. It was really awesome.
When I got to talk to John Gruden about bringing you two across, I thought he was going to jump out of his shoes. I don't know that I'd ever seen John that excited. He's got you guys back. He's got Will Bitton, and he said the options that we have with this team now were just off the charts. And he was exactly right. You guys go on to create an incredible line with Marian Studenic, who I thought you and Marian really gelled well. Was it because although one American and one Slovak, but the styles very similar, smaller guys who both played big and came up in big moments? Was it there just an immediate connection with you three?
Yeah, I mean, I played with Cammy, so I knew what he brought. But as for studs, I liked playing with guys who played with a high pace, and I thought obviously studs did that, and Cammy could keep up as well. And I think, like you said, we kind of just complemented each other well, and it kind of just all fell into place.
Well, let's go to January, because you guys are in the room. You guys are in the heat of it, and you know that the Bulldogs are going to be a really good team that are poised for a long playoff run. And we'll start late in December. Riley Stillman gets picked up. Nick Mattinen gets picked up. Robert Thomas gets picked up. As a veteran on that team, when you look and start seeing two dominant defensemen, of course, you knew Nick Mattinen from Flint as well, and from playing when he was in London, and you see a dominant physical player in Mattinen, a dominant physical player in Stillman, and then maybe the best player in the league, probably not maybe, I think that would be the best player in the league at the time, and Robert Thomas gets added into this group. And you could argue the Bulldogs had three first lines by the time they headed to the playoffs. What was it like at that moment when you see these guys coming into the group and thinking, okay, it's an all-star team at this point?
Yeah, it was amazing to see it all come into place. I knew Matty, like you said, from Flint, so I knew what he brought, and every time I played against Stillman, it was tough. So I think that was an element that we really needed, and I can't say enough about Stillman. Some guys might get mad at me, but I think he was the biggest part to this team in many ways. I still say that, and I'll stand by that. I think he really elevated his game. That's not to discredit anything anybody else has done, but when he came in, the way his game got better and better as it went on was truly amazing to watch. And as for Robbie, it was, I don't have to talk on that. He was an incredible player, an incredible teammate, an awesome kid to be around. So that, as for me being a veteran and to look around at that room and to know what we already had and to see these guys come in, it was special for me because I had never had an opportunity to chase this championship, and time was running out for me, so it was pretty cool to see.
It did feel like a sense of urgency from the whole team. And you look back at that group now, and I know a lot of attention has gone to the London Knights team, the team that never should have happened, the lockout team with Perry and Schremp and those guys. But when you look back at that Bulldogs team, Ryan, and line 1A, Robert Thomas between Brandon Sagan and Will Bitton. Line 1B, Ryan Moore between Nick Camano and Marion Studenich. Line 1C is Mackenzie Entwistle between Matt Strome and Isaac Nurse. And then some guy named Kaliev, who had 31 goals in the regular season, is on the fourth line. I don't know when you're going to see a team, and we didn't even talk about the defense on that team, and Caden Fultru's playing in the pros in the net. I don't know when you're going to see a team with that kind of depth again anywhere. Just a 31-goal scorer who's turned into a second-round National Hockey League pick, should have been a first, and he's playing on the fourth line in the playoffs. It's mind-blowing when you look back at it now and think about how good and how deep that team was just seeing the last few OHL champions.
Yeah, you got to be careful when you say line 1C. If Stromer and Entwistle are listening, they might peg themselves as 1B. But
yeah, I'm definitely gonna hear about it. I realized it as soon as I said it that next time I see Stromer and Mac, I'm gonna get beat up. But it's okay.
But no, it's it's really crazy to think about how deep we actually were to look back. And what's even better about it is that I think there was a lot of people around the league that when they got to that certain point, I don't think we were favorited, which makes it even better. I think, we knew what we had, and you could look around and, it was next man up mentality. It didn't matter who was out there. We always thought anybody could play in any situation. And I think that was very important for us.
Well, Nurse, Entwistle, and Strome proved that in Game 1 against Niagara when Isaac Nurse scored the OT winner. Game 2 against Niagara, let's relive a little bit of history in the 2018 playoffs.
Made by Fulcher, turned away from the goal by Stillman, but not out. Now Ryan Moore will take it. The self-flip with Camano driving the middle. Ryan Moore's in. Out front for Camano. Second chance, Studenich. Camano one more. Moore's there. They score! Ryan Moore on the goal mouth scramble. The Hamilton Bulldogs have won Game 2 in overtime.
I will never get tired of that clip. What was that moment like? Niagara had haunted the Bulldogs during the regular season, and then all of a sudden you guys turn it into another gear. I know the games in that series were tight, but on the scoreboard. But when you look at the shots and when you watch them back and you see how the flow of play went, it just felt like this team found a whole different gear from the team that had already been the best in the Eastern Conference during the regular season.
Yeah, they were a tough test for us. Their goaltending was really, really good throughout the series, and man, that moment, it was so cool for me, and to hear you call it like that was. Cammy obviously didn't want that one there. He wanted me to have it. That's right. Building that there, but no, it was just so great. Like I just look back and it's just I guess the right place, right time moment for me. But it was a big moment in that series and obviously further.
I mean, funny story about that whole thing was it took me 3 or 4 days afterwards to get my voice back because in a span of 3 days, Lunar scored an overtime goal, triple overtime playing junior B that I called. And then Nursey's goal in Game 1, night off, you in Game 2. I thought, oh my goodness, can we call any more overtimes? And then thank goodness you guys took care of business Game 5 and then into the Kingston series. I didn't have to blow my voice out again until the end of that series with Walter's goal. And Will Bitton jumps in to give you a wave.
Yeah, he said PPW. It's what we used to Bitz and I used to always go to with this. It's prove people wrong. So obviously undersized guys, and we used to kind of run with that, and we'd write it on our sticks, on our knobs, and so that's our little thing.
I absolutely love that as somebody who's vertically challenged, shall we say, myself.
Right.
You guys, and you mentioned it, Ryan. So you go into the finals against the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds, wire to wire, #1 in the country. I think everybody pretty much counted this Bulldogs team out, which even at the time I thought was insane. You guys go to the Sioux, hand them a loss there, and it felt like from that moment on, even though it was a tough series, there was just a belief around this group that nobody is going to stop us.
Yeah, it was like that's really all it felt like. Just the battles that we had with them, and I think they lumped us pretty good one time during the regular season. So just to go in there and just feel the air kind of suck out of them was pretty cool. And then to come back to steal one there, and to come back, we knew we had life, and they were human, and I think we kind of just we really thrived off that chip on our shoulder throughout every series. Like, I mean, even in the Kingston series, I don't know if there was people that doubted us in that one too, just based on who they got at the deadline, and you heard all this talk about who they got. So I think definitely for me, I'm one that loves the chip on the shoulder, but I know for our team, we built off having the opportunity to kind of silence some people.
Game 6 against the Sioux, 10,000 people in the building. It was shaking when the third period was winding down, and you see Nick Camano hit the empty net. What was that moment? Because that was the one that kind of put everything to rest. What was that moment like for you, having come to the Bulldogs with the express purpose of we're going to win a championship, and now the guy you come to the team with, your friend that you were brought over with, hits the net. You're looking up at the clock and you're seconds away. What was that feeling?
Oh man, it was something I'll never forget. It just it was pretty cool. Obviously for him, extremely happy that it was him to do it. I'm sure he had so many people there from his hometown, his family. So it was cool, but I wasn't even thinking about that. I was just thinking, like, how much time's left? Like, can this thing end? And then they ended up scoring another one. So it was like, don't hold your breath too soon here. But just to see that one go in and celebrate with the guys on the bench and just count down the clock, that's the best moment I've ever had in sports.
I remember being on the ice with you guys after the game, and half the team waving me down to the ice to come on and just celebrate. It was unreal. I've never been around a group of guys that were that tight. This wasn't just a team. This was a bunch of guys who really enjoyed being friends and being around one another. That celebration was something that I'll never forget being a part of, because there was something just absolutely special to it, that something different about that group. And from what I understand, you guys are still all pretty darn close as well.
Yeah, actually, now that you mention it, my phone's going off. We've got a Snapchat group thing going on, and every time someone gets like a memory, there was a memory 3 years ago from us horsing around on the bus. So it's just kind of one of those things that, we were close then and we're close now, and I think the bond will always kind of be there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So you go on, you turn pro. We talked about this a little bit earlier, and of course I brought this as well. The Toronto Marlies son, Ryan Moore. Thought that was pretty cool graphic to bring on with us. And when you go pro, you sign with the Marlies, you go to the Newfoundland Growlers, and it was like instant success again, because the year you arrive, they win the Kelly Cup Championship. I think a lot of people don't realize the Toronto Maple Leafs treat their minor league organizations as if they were NHL teams as well. I don't think people realize the time and effort they put in. Can you just speak to what it was like being in that organization?
Yeah, it was It was a good experience for me. They do the East Coast League for them is not like how people paint it out to be. The old school like East Coast League, like minor leagues is no longer, at least for there. But the amount of people that are there to help you, they like if we're in Newfoundland and they send guys from Toronto to help us with skills and video, and so it was they do really have a good way of going about things, and I think it's kind of like the new thing. I think you'll see teams start to follow suit with this.
Absolutely, I agree with you there. Kevin Marley asked the question. This would be a perfect time to transition as well, Ryan, because he says, "Are you still with the Leafs organization?" Now, we know that you are not currently with the Leafs organization, but what are you doing now?
Yeah, so Kevin and everyone listening, I am now I'm actually fully enrolled full-time in school. So I'm in the business program at Oakland University, which is down the road from my house. And I'm also an assistant coach with a local AAA Honey Baked U16 team.
As well, you're doing some scouting with the Hamilton Bulldogs, which I think makes you the busiest man in hockey right now, because you're managing to go through a really good school in Oakland University. If people don't know about it, I mean, Google it. It is a tremendous school. Like you said, assistant coach with Honey Baked, scouting. How do you manage to balance your time, Ryan? Because, I mean, that's got to be tough, and yet you're succeeding at it.
Yeah, that was one thing that was difficult for me when I stopped playing. It was like I'd never been a full-time student. I'd always taken classes here and there throughout my OHL career and in the summer. So having that along with the coaching and the scouting, it just kind of has all fallen into place. And there's nothing that I've really done differently. I've kind of just put the effort that I always put into hockey into other things, and that's kind of helped me grow and help me like navigate through this. Sometimes it feels a little crazy because the school, I'm trying to keep up on it, and sometimes I'll have to travel. Well, not so much right now, but I have to travel for scouting to try and get over to Canada when I can. But we actually did travel earlier, like 2 months ago. I traveled to Minnesota on a bus for my AAA team, and I was like, I thought I was done riding on a bus, but I guess not. So no, but that's all jokes aside, it's been cool, and I've found a way it's been good for me to try and put, my time and effort into something else, and it kind of keeps my head sane. So
championships on the ice, success in the classroom, and you come all the way back around and you're riding a bus with a bunch of teenagers again.
Right. How it works out.
I mean, that's got to be fun, though. And how has that been moving over to the coaching side? Because one of the things, and again, I go back to when you got brought into the Bulldogs, Steve Staios went out of his way to mention not only is this guy a top shelf talent on the ice, but it's the mind that he's got. The supercomputer between the ears is what I've said about guys like Logan Morrison. And you've certainly got that, Ryan, the supercomputer, the processor to understand the game. What's it been like moving from playing into coaching at such a high level?
It's been different. I'm trying to pick up on little things. I think I do have a very high knowledge for the game, but I can always learn and grow more in that aspect. Like the first time that I got on the ice, I tried to stand in front of the board and draw up a drill, and I couldn't think of anything. And I'm like sitting here, I'm like, you played hockey your whole life and you can't come up with a drill. But it's like everything's up there, but it's just getting it out. And that's kind of what I tell people. It's just and that's been the learning curve for me is to try and trust myself. And these kids are 16 years old, and I don't feel like I'm that much older than them. I'm not. So I'm trying to just navigate through that and not so much only just coach them, but help them, because it wasn't long ago till I had to make that decision whether or not I wanted to go the NCAA route, go to the OHL. So I kind of am more of like a mentor in that sense.
Hey, you were mentioning to me earlier, you've got players on your team that can pick both routes. Some guys that may look to the OHL and some guys that may look to the NCAA. And obviously it puts you in a position to be able to give the pros and cons of both, having gone through the OHL route and obviously seen and been friends with players that have gone the NCAA route. Kind of puts you in a good position to relate to these guys at this age, because I don't think people realize how tough of a decision that's got to be when you're 16, 17 years old, and you got to make that decision kind of on the fly of what your future is going to be.
Yeah, it's a crazy decision, and you don't realize it until you're around my age and you're looking back at it. But I, like you said, I really do enjoy being in that position to like help them and try and help them navigate through it, because it is a very, very difficult decision, and whatever help I can be, I have no regrets on what I did and going to the OHL. So I'm like pro OHL when they talk to me, but I'm here to help them explore all options.
Absolutely. And of course, we're all happy up here that you decided to go the OHL route, that's for sure.
Yeah.
When you look at the scouting side of it as well, again, it's putting that hockey mind to use, but in a different way than coaching. What have the challenges been going into scouting?
Man, that has been a real challenge for me, just to try and be patient and help myself understand that I'm looking at these kids at 15, 16 years old, like they're raw right now, and try and look back and compare talent. And I think it's easy to pick out the obvious guys and the guys that are top rated on the list, and you go to the game and you can already see that they're going to be a good player. But the ability to find talent when it really doesn't jump out every game, I think, is something that it's a skill, and that's something I've been working on with Steve and Ian, and these guys have been very, very helpful for me to try and learn this side of the game. So whether it be tournaments or showcases and whatnot, we tend to travel together and we room together. I've roomed with Ian a couple trips. I'm not sure if he's happy about it, but thank you, Ian. So it's pretty cool. Like, I mean, these guys were once, bosses, I guess you could say, to me, and now it's more of like a friendship and a mentorship. So it's been special.
I've made that point a couple times to people that have asked me about Steve and Ian specifically, and that I thought I knew a lot about the game before I worked directly with them. And in working with them, I realized that I was not nearly as smart as I thought I was. I have learned a ton just being around them, just being in the room when they discuss players or discuss the way that you could utilize a player. And it's some of those moments where you got to know when to just kind of shut up and be the fly on the wall. And I know I've had a bunch of lunches with Ian where he just walks me right through the scouting process. It's really amazing what you guys are able to do and how you're able to find players. But is that just sort of the experience you've had with Steve and Ian, where it's like you're learning it at a whole nother level now?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what goes on with other teams and how they conduct themselves in terms of scouting and preparation, but I'm going to be completely straightforward. I don't think anybody does it quite like Hamilton. Like, there is so much involved, and there's so much thinking, and everybody has a role in this whole thing. It's not one person, and everybody's leaned upon to give their input. So it's been, for me, it's like the first year I was doing a ton of learning, taking notes, trying to learn from these guys. I mean, I wouldn't say that, I would love to one day maybe become a GM or something in that sense. So just to learn from them and to pick their brains and to be able to do that kind of thing with them has been extremely helpful.
Ryan, before we let you go, I want to just ask you about any memories that stand out about being in Hamilton. I mean, we talked about the championship, but what is, give us a couple or whatever you've got of moments and memories that really stand out when you were here that, appropriate for live stream.
Good thing you said that.
I've had a couple of guys say, well, geez, I got a bunch, but I can't say.
I was going to ask you, like, you mean on the ice or off?
Guys, whatever you got that you can share with us.
Aside from the championship, Oh boy. I'm trying to think. The one thing that I don't know if it's a good memory, something I'll just absolutely never forget is, and I'm sure I don't know if the fans they definitely don't know this, but the first time that I got so the day that we got traded, we had a game, and then we were getting dressed for the game. Like we had practice, morning skate, and we're at the game and we're getting dressed. And it was the first night. I think that I don't know if it was the first night for Hamilton with the new jerseys, but it was the first time I'd ever seen the new third jersey, and it was our first game in Hamilton. So Cammy and I were getting dressed. I was getting dressed, and like 2 minutes before the game, Steve Stajos walks in. He pulls me aside. He's like, "You can't play tonight." And I was like, "What?" I was like, thought he was joking. I was like, "Good one." And he's like, "No, like I'm serious. You have to get undressed." And I was like, You're being serious?" And he's like, "Yeah, like something like I had like a minor, I don't even remember what it was. I had a minor like shoulder or something, or I think it was with my wrist. My wrist had some sort of cartilage issue, and it was like it wasn't medically cleared by JP and the medical staff, and Flint was a little bit hesitant. So there was a little bit of like, oh my gosh, did we just get a guy that was hurt? But to me, it was like completely fine. Like I had no issues with this, and it was something that had prior bothered me. So that was just like a fun little inside story. So the first day I didn't get to play. Like I was so excited to play, and I saw Cammy go out there, and Cammy scored. But I still got to go out after the game with the guys, so it was fun.
You know what? Now that you say that story, I remember that being in the booth.
Yeah.
And before every game, I'll take people inside. What I do a little bit is I do lineup cards. It just helps me memorize where guys are on the ice. And I've got you in as a center, and everybody comes out on the ice, and there's no number. Where's number 40? I can't find Ryan Moore. It took me 5 to 10 minutes to finally figure out, oh, he's not in the lineup.
Yeah.
The whole way through the national anthem, I'm sweating bullets going, did I lose a player? This can't happen. I'm a play-by-play guy, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
No, that's great. It's interesting to know that story from the other side now. And, of course, you mentioned JP, and three guys I've gotten to know pretty well, JP, Casey, and Danny. You just want to talk about what the staff to the Bulldogs means?
I mean, everything, man. Like, I think everyone likes to say that, these guys are the best in the business. They're the best but I truly, truly believe that what's going on in Hamilton is the best that you can get. I know I've played in a lot of places, and everybody does it their own way, but just it's something special that they do in Hamilton, and they're not so much our trainers or our equipment guys are our friends, and I think that's what makes it so special here.
I got lucky this year. Those three guys kind of took me under their wing on the road. I got to hang out with them quite a bit, and the dedication they show. Three of the funniest guys you could ever hope to meet in life, but the dedication they show is incredible.
Yeah, I still try and keep in touch with them as best I can, and I always that's how I gotta get my attire here. I gotta have some sort of connection.
That's right. Actually, I gotta bug Casey about that. I gotta see what I can get out of him. Stephanie writes in. I think everybody knows Stephanie. Super fan of the Bulldogs. Followed the team all the way from Belleville. So it was a lot of fun watching you play during the championship season as a fan. I don't think I could have any better memories than that year. That seems to be the common theme that we get from the fans and the players from that 2018 team, Ryan. It's just great to have you on and catch up with you again. And I want to let you sort of have the floor here. Say whatever you like to the fans that really supported you when you were here with the Bulldogs.
Yeah, I just want to obviously say thank you, and thank you for your continuous support, not only for my season, but beyond. You guys truly mean the world to the players and the staff, and you guys are the driving engine behind it all. I'll never forget how loud that building was when we finally knocked down the Big Sioux, and it's something that I'll always remember and cherish. So thank you.
Ryan, really great to catch up with you again. Thank you so much for taking the time and coming on and talking to us. And hopefully, I know it's been a year unlike any other, but hopefully we'll have you back on this side of the border pretty soon, and maybe we can go grab lunch or something when you're back up here.
Of course, man. I'm looking forward to that day.
Oh, we all are, and hopefully back to the ice sooner as opposed to later. My thanks to 2018 OHL champion Ryan Moore. Next week, Bulldogs Live will be coming at you with 2 episodes, brand new players on the show. You're going to have to tune into Bulldogs social media to find out when those are. So once again, for Ryan Moore, I'm Reed Duffy. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.